Well, if you thought the tax credits were complicated enough to begin with, I've got some great news. It's even more complicated now, and that is because Tesla has made some changes that are going to affect tax credit eligibility for some models that have been eligible all this time. And just recently, we had the Model 3 long-range all-wheel drive become eligible, and there was a lot of discussion on how that became possible. Now, over here, I suggested that the Model 3 long-range all-wheel drive is now tax credit eligible because they're able to shift some of the demand for the Model Y batteries and move those into the long-range all-wheel drive Model 3. So this was a temporary thing. I didn't know how long this was going to last, and it seems like Tesla has made more of a permanent-ish change here, at least for the short term. So it's very complicated. I'm going to do my best to explain this to you in a way that's going to make perfect sense, and hopefully you'll walk away from this understanding what the heck is going on and why Tesla is actually doing this. So with that, let's dive into the details. There's a lot to unpack here, so make sure you stick around to the end and also hit that subscribe button so we can hit 100,000 subscribers this year. Really appreciate it. Let's head over to the computer and take a look. All right, so we're over here at Tesla's website, and in order to see these changes, we're not going to be able to see it in the order page because as you look through these, get rid of this, our pricing is the same, and we can see federal tax credit for the long-range all-wheel drive Model 3 and for the performance all-wheel drive Model 3. And then when we look over at the Model Y, we can see everything is tax credit eligible as it has been since these rolled out. So long-range rear-wheel drive, long-range all-wheel drive, and the performance all-wheel drive. So tax credit eligible, $7,500. Tesla has done something very interesting and has just happened to pop up in inventory. Now, I've been keeping an eye on inventory because I've been waiting for some sort of a deal to come out, given that this is the last month of the quarter. And we're here on the last week of this month for the quarter, so there should be some deals popping up, but there really hasn't been anything. But that's when I noticed something was missing here, and we are missing the tax credit eligibility. So if I scroll down here and get past all these demo models, what I'll be able to show you is right here is what it looks like when something is tax credit eligible. And in fact, Tesla has recently added this tax credit eligible vehicles toggle, which will automatically select those. Now, when I unselect that, and for instance, this Model Y rear-wheel drive, something very interesting here. There's two things actually. Number one, if we look at this car, the range is actually 242 miles. But the rear-wheel drive Model Y is now the long-range rear-wheel drive. Well, this one does not say long range. It actually has less miles, and this is what we used to see on the rear-wheel drive Model Y for quite some time. This one, it is important to note, has the induction wheels. That's a $2,000 option, and it does reduce the range. So presumably with the Gemini wheels, it would be 260 like it was previously. It also says that this is a model year 2023, which is also very interesting. This is only eligible for the EV tax credits if you lease or you're using this as a business tax credit. No other qualification. But over here on the long-range all-wheel drive, a model we've had all this time and has been qualified all this time, is no longer qualified. So what the heck? We have 308 miles of range, which is the updated EPA range on this vehicle. Nothing else really stands out. 7,500 is only good for the lease incentive and for the business tax credit, nothing else. So again, something very wrong is happening here. Now, if I switch this over to tax credit eligible vehicles only, long range rear wheel drive right here, 44,990. This one here shows 320 miles, which is the long range rear wheel drive Model Y that we're used to seeing. You'll also notice it has the older Gemini wheels, but it is tax credit eligible. On the Model Y rear wheel drive, there's only one showing up and it is not tax credit eligible. Now over here on Tesla Info's website, this is where we're starting to see some more details on this. If we select the rear wheel drive Model Y, it definitely pops up and it definitely shows as a 2023 model. Also, what I've noticed in this is these are all induction wheel cars. So if we look here, 20-inch induction wheels, 20-inch induction wheels, 20-inch induction wheels, on and on and on and on. All of these cars that have just popped up have induction wheels. And it's not until we get past these, quote, discounted ones of $1,800 that we finally see the long-range rear-wheel drive pop up. And everything before this in the entire country right now is a rear-wheel drive, I guess, standard range, or that previous version of rear-wheel drive that we had before. But you can only get it with induction wheels, adding $2,000 to the MSRP, and they're giving you an $1,800 discount. I'll go more into that pricing later to help that make sense. But it doesn't just end there. Going over here on the long-range all-wheel drive, it's the same story. We have long-range all-wheel drive vehicles that are not tax credit eligible, and these ones are the most updated. They have the correct Gemini wheels, the newer version of the Gemini wheels. And as we scroll down here, it takes quite a while to get past the demo models and get into where we start to see tax credit eligible ones. This one, of course, is a demo model, but you get the point. A little bit farther, a lot of demo models, excuse me. It's going to take a minute to get through this apparently. Here we go. So these are tax credit eligible, non-demo models. So something very interesting happening there. Switching our focus over here to the Model 3, long-range all-wheel drive. We have a number of these that are not tax credit eligible, but if you look, this is the previous generation Model 3. We have been on the refresh for months at this point. So a bunch of these just popped up into inventory, and it is the old previous generation Model 3. There are some demo models down here that have a slight discount, but once we get to a non-demo model and a non-2023 model, finally find ourselves here with a non-tax credit eligible long-range all-wheel drive Model 3 in the refresh. $48,490 because it has a $1,000 paint color on it. And then if we keep scrolling down, we will eventually run into vehicles that are qualified for that tax credit in the long-range all-wheel drive configuration. On the performance, the good news is for both the Model Y and the Model 3, they are absolutely qualified. There are no exceptions. So what the heck is happening? To better explain this to you, I want to talk about batteries. There's really 4 different batteries at Tesla. Tesla ships cars, at least here in the United States, with either a LFP battery from Cattle, an LG battery, Panasonic, or their 4680 made in Texas and California. Of course, the LFP comes from China, from Cattle. It is not tax credit eligible. The LG battery is coming from South Korea with a separator cathode from China, at least right now, making it not tax credit eligible. And this is what we used to see in our Model 3 long-range all-wheel drive, was this LG battery. It was not an LFP battery. And then, of course, the long tried and true Panasonic 2170 made out of Nevada. Of course, that's tax credit eligible. And the 4680, of course, also tax credit eligible. For the Model Y, the long-range rear-wheel drive recently introduced, it is believed that it is indeed the Panasonic 2170 from Nevada. However, these new ones that are not tax credit eligible are very likely getting this LG from South Korea battery pack, which makes them not tax credit eligible. And I think that's what we're seeing here on the all-wheel drive as well. The all-wheel drive has always had the Panasonic 2170 out of Nevada. It's always been tax credit qualified, but the ones that are not are likely being supplemented with this LG battery from South Korea. What they have basically done here is they are splitting the allocation of the 2170 battery out of Nevada to help make some long-range all-wheel drive Model Ys and long-range all-wheel drive Model 3s tax credit eligible. On the flip side, installing the LG battery in some of the allocation as well, making those not tax credit eligible. Why would they do that? Starting over on the Model 3, really the stats don't change at all. Both of these, one of them being tax credit eligible, one of them not. This presumably being the Panasonic out of Nevada, this presumably being the LG out of South Korea. One of them eligible, one of them not. The same range, same price, same performance even. So it can't be an LFP battery. We still have the same charging performance. We didn't lose range for more weight, and we didn't get less performance. It is most likely the LG battery out of South Korea. So what that does is basically it splits tax credit eligibility into being tax credit eligible and not being tax credit eligible for the long-range all-wheel drive. Why would that make any sense for a consumer to buy this one? Over on the Model Y, it's important to note the only one I can find in inventory starts at $44,990, but it does have the $2,000 induction wheels. So without that, it's presumably $42,990 for this new rear-wheel drive reintroduced into the US. Also 260 miles, presumably, with the Gemini wheels instead of induction. And 0 to 60 is 1/10 of a second slower than the long-range rear-wheel drive. It is not tax credit eligible, although the long-range rear-wheel drive is. Now, over on the long-range all-wheel drive, of course, we have the traditional fully tax credit eligible for 47,990, 308 miles of range, 4.20 to 60. The same exact specs over here on the long-range all-wheel drive that is not tax credit eligible. So again, it's extremely likely that this is coming from the LG South Korea battery, splitting that allocation to help make both the Model 3 and the Model Y tax credit eligible. And then finally, looking at that from a price perspective, again, $44,990 is the only one in inventory, but I believe it's $42,990 without those induction wheels. They are giving you an $1,800 discount, so you're still paying $200 to add those induction wheels, and you're getting less range at 242 instead of the 260 max it should be. And then the long-range all-wheel drive, depending on which model you get, you're talking a difference of $7,500. So why is this happening? Why is Tesla doing this? And like I've said, I truly believe that this is to help allocate resources where they can technically qualify both the Model 3 and the Model Y as tax credit eligible. It maximizes the number of trims of models that are tax credit eligible, at least in the short term. Now, for the vehicles that are not tax credit eligible, why would they even offer that without any kind of a discount, really? The rear-wheel drive is getting somewhat of a discount, but it is made up because there's induction wheels on it. So $2,000 in options added at minimum. You cannot get them with Gemini wheels, at least right now, and they give you $1,800 off. For the other models, there's no discount at all, whether you get a tax credit eligible one or not. So why would you choose that one? By doing this, if you don't qualify for the tax credit or you are leasing a Tesla, it's extremely likely they are going to navigate you into a non-tax credit eligible vehicle, because when you lease, everybody gets eligibility for that tax credit. However, what I think we're about to see are some changes at Tesla with this new battery setup. So it is likely we're going to start to see some special incentives on the non-tax credit eligible vehicles to lease those. This is just my best guess. If they were to offer a special rate on the non-tax credit eligible to purchase, but were able to get you that $7,500 in a lease, and they were able to put a little bit of extra meat on the bones, it would probably push you towards a lease on the Model Y or the Model 3 in that case. So they're able to negate any of the negatives of not having a tax credit eligible battery by pushing those towards leases. And quite honestly, I don't know that they actually have to tell you which battery's in the vehicle when you lease it. So if you lease a vehicle, they could just automatically make you go to the other car. As you've seen on here already, you cannot order these cars specifically. It's only in inventory. So Tesla may just start assigning these vehicles to people who go through with a lease. That way, those vehicles are taken care of. It's not taking tax credit eligible batteries off the plate for cars that are being purchased. So it's an interesting strategy. I don't know that I agree or disagree with it, but long term, I think that there's more to come on this. I think this is a much bigger story than what it appears right now, almost as if they've started opening the book on what's coming next, but haven't quite turned the page to show you what's coming in the next chapter. So given Tesla's ability to continue making these changes on the spot with battery supply, they're doing an incredible job of shifting things around to maximize the benefits received on these vehicles, especially in a time right now when interest rates are high and demand is lower than it has been. Tesla seems to be pulling out all the stops. So we'll see what comes next, but I would certainly keep an eye on this because I think there's more to the story that we're about to find out here in the coming weeks. So for those of you who are purchased, what are your thoughts on this? Are you thinking maybe you're going to go this direction? I'm not sure why you would do this on purpose. You're not going to get 100% daily charge by doing this. You're going to get the same performance generally, and you're going to pay the same price. So I'm not exactly sure why you would do this as it sits right now. However, if we start to see some deals that are specific to these models, then it starts to make sense on why these are available. Let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts on this? Are you as confused as I am, or is this kind of making sense? I look forward to hearing from you, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one.